Good morning. You're listening to Senior Scene on your hometown station, 1430 WNAV. I'm Joshua Killian, social media producer for the Anne Arundel County Department of Aging and Disabilities. And today my guest is Jim Krempel, Community Outreach Coordinator for the Anne Arundel County Office of Emergency Management. Welcome back to Senior Scene, Jim.
Good to be here, Josh.
With all the recent extreme weather, flooding, and man-made emergencies in the news, it's probably a good time for our listeners to review their preparations for unexpected emergencies. I understand that September is National Preparedness Month. Can you tell our listeners more about that?
Yes, September is recognized as National Preparedness Month, which raises awareness about the importance of preparing for disasters and emergencies that can happen at any time. This includes natural disasters like severe weather, as we've recently experienced, man-made emergencies like cyber attacks, active shooter events, or hazardous materials spills, or public health emergencies like the COVID pandemic. While these disasters are all different, National Preparedness Month focuses on practical tips that our listeners can use to prepare in advance for any emergency.
And I understand that there are 4 basic steps to becoming prepared for emergencies. Can you talk us through them?
Sure. The first step is to be informed. You cannot prepare yourself to respond to an emergency if you're not aware of it first. This means being aware of the potential hazards, both natural and man-made, that may occur in your area. Learn what protective measures to take before, during, and after an emergency. Identify sources of information in your community that will be helpful and sign up for emergency alerts. You can receive alerts via text, phone call, or email directly to your mobile device. Just visit alertandarundel.civicready.com, call our office, or scan the QR code on the screen.
And so we can learn a lot about potential hazards and then be warned of them. And that makes sense. But what's the next step to becoming prepared?
Well, next is to make a plan. We encourage everyone to assess their own situation and plan for emergencies with family members, friends, and caregivers. Think about how you might shelter in place with a family or trusted friend during a hurricane or a snowstorm. Consider how you would evacuate from your home or office in a fire, or perhaps from your neighborhood in a flood. Plan for how you would stay in communications with family or friends before and after a disaster. If one of our listeners has a chronic illness or disability, the need for careful advanced planning is even more important. National Preparedness Month also is a good time to plan for the worst by looking at your financial preparedness, assembling important documents, and checking your household and flood insurance coverage.
We often hear about building an emergency kit. Is this going to be one of the steps to preparedness?
Well, assembling basic supplies to be self-sufficient for 3 days is a major way to become better prepared. Now, 3 days is a worst-case timeline for rescue after a major disaster, like a big snowstorm or a big flood. Building an emergency kit ensures you have the items on hand before the disaster strikes. So in addition to food, water, flashlights, and extra batteries, and of course a cell phone, consider a first aid kit, prescription medications, and extra glasses or hearing aid with batteries. Also consider hygiene items and face masks and gloves during the pandemic. Now, people with chronic illness, functional access issues may need additional medical items or supplemental oxygen. So family members and caregivers need to be trained on how to use them properly. You can also build a kit over time and share expenses with a friend or neighbor. And while you're at it, consider building a small emergency kit for your pets in case they have to evacuate with you.
Well, so now we are forewarned of the hazards we may face. We have reasonable plans, and we've stocked an emergency kit to last for at least 3 days. What's left to become fully prepared?
Well, the final step involves you. It's to get involved in emergency preparedness for yourself, your family, and your community. Include family, friends, or neighbors in your emergency plans and practice together. Involve your children or grandchildren in the process. By taking an active part, they will become better prepared for and less fearful of potential emergencies. Check on vulnerable neighbors, especially those with chronic illness or access or functional needs. Take a first aid or CPR or AED course or a stop the bleed class. Request an emergency preparedness presentation for your community or group or house of worship through our OEM website. And volunteer for a disaster relief group, serve at a local food pantry, or support another nonprofit organization. And remember, stay situationally aware. If you see something, say something. Finally, set the example by taking COVID precautions and getting vaccinated and boosted.
Well, it sounds like National Preparedness Month is a great time to consider these 4 steps to being prepared for emergencies. How can our listeners learn more?
Well, we would like to invite all WNAV listeners to the 2022 Anne Arundel County Emergency Preparedness Expo. It'll be held on Saturday, September 17th of this year from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Anne Arundel Community College campus at the Arundel Mill Shopping Center in Hanover. This is a free, family-friendly event with hands-on displays, games, and activities for all ages, provided by various county and public safety agencies and our partners. Sponsored by the Office of Emergency Management as part of National Preparedness Month, this is a fun-filled way to learn about preparing for any emergency. For more information on the steps to preparedness, visit the Office of Emergency Management website at www.aacounty.org/OEM or call us at 410-222-0600. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Nextdoor, and YouTube.
If you have any questions about any of our programs and services, you can always call the Department of Age and Disabilities at 410-222-4257, or you can visit us online. Please remember to follow us on Facebook. And this has been Joshua Killian, social media producer with the Anne Arundel County Department of Age and Disabilities. You're listening to Senior Scene on your hometown station, 1430 WNAV.